You're going to just say, you know,
Impact, yes.
Get in there, right?
A little bit.
There we go. We got some paparazzi. Tom, how you doing,
how's it
buddy?
going?
Pat, hi.
Nice to see you.
Buddy.
Welcome. Oh,
Yeah.
amazing. Thank
You
you for
mind if
having
we
me.
get some paparazzi for you?
Not at all.
Ready?
1, 2, 3. You want me to get with mine?
Yeah, get one with us. Come on in, paparazzi. Get one with all the paparazzi.
Ready? 1, 2, 3. Oh, shit. Hold on. Sorry.
That's all right. He's got one. We're going to go live. All right, cool. We're going to go live. At all of our networks. This is Brooke Swagger, our correspondent.
Nice to meet you. I'm Brooke Swagger. It's so nice to meet you.
Oh, thank you. That's
I
so
just
kind.
have a couple of questions for you if you don't mind me asking.
Of course. Please fire away.
So my first question is, I know impact theory is going to be big. How big is it going to get, and what do you have to take away from that?
So the vision that we have is a 70-year plan, which I know is ridiculous because especially with AI, nobody can see that far in the future, but it was a great guiding light for a multi-generational attempt at something. So our goal in terms of size is to beat Disney, so whatever that takes.
Exactly.
So, they've got a 94-year head start, billions of dollars in revenue, billions of dollars in IP, so we've got a challenge ahead of us to be sure. But, I'm obviously, with my past, I'm very familiar with scaling companies to pretty big heights, so confident that we could pull it off. To do it, though, it's really about, the way that we think about a multi-generational move is that you want to raise a generation on your content that then raises a generation on your content. And so if you look at anything, if you look at why are people in Brazil better at soccer than we are here in the US or the UK, it's because you had a generation that grew up with heroes that were already good at that thing. And so if we can create IP that kids today just are like, oh my God, that's so cool, it's amazing. I don't know anybody else that's into impact theory, but this is amazing. And then when they raise their kids, they're like, yo, you've got to check this out. Because there's one thing that Disney did so well, which makes them the blueprint, which is they told one story from 1,000 different angles. And because of that, it meant something to go see a Disney movie. So if I say I'm going to go see a Warner Brothers movie, a Paramount movie, a Sony movie, you don't know anything about it. But if I say I'm going to go see a Disney movie, you already know something. And so getting that brand identity nailed down is exactly what we do. So you can sum up our company's reason for existing in a single word, and that word's empowerment. So every story we tell, every interview we do is all meant to help people go from less capable to more capable. And if we can get people to feel that with everything that they engage with us, then we've won. And so getting parents to share their stuff with their kids, not just because it's nostalgic, but because it's like, hey, these are the values that I want my kids to grow up with. And we understand that you have to bury that in entertainment. It can't be, it can't feel like you're trying to educate or you're trying to preach. It's just got to be amazing values that if you take the advice of, say, the mentor character like Yoda, if you take Yoda's advice, your life will actually be better. Same with Morpheus. So we want to create stories like that have characters that are struggling with something, going through something hard. They encounter somebody that can introduce them to wisdom. They leverage that wisdom to improve their life. And that's really the basic formula for everything that we do. And so, we think over 70 years that we can really become a cultural touchstone.
Wow, that's some powerful stuff, and I can't thank you enough. What you started out with Quest and everything is powerful, and I look up to you, and I thank you so much.
Very kind, thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Can you tell us a little bit about the ring?
My necklace, so I wish that there was deep meaning to this. There is not. It's just cool, but because it is about the brain and that, unfortunately, as of today, we're all going to die, I found that really fascinating. So if you guys know the idea of Memento Mori, that you're going to die, don't take any of this for granted. For the longest time in my life, I lived assuming I would live forever. And that was actually the most useful framing for me to get up and go to work and do the things I needed to do. And then it started to shift in my mid-40s where I realized now for me to really keep the momentum that I had earlier in my life, I needed to focus on the fact that I'm going to die. And that ultimately all we have is our brain. And so being thoughtful thoughtful about how you treat it from a sleep, diet, exercise perspective, but also what do you put into it. And so, yeah, we could really get lost in what I call frame of reference, which ultimately controls your entire life, but it's just a good reminder to me. So that's why I wear it.
Tell me about Mighty Atom and Suzuki.
Okay, so this is going to be the first thing where I will say very little for reasons that will become clear later, but this is an incredibly meaningful character to me. It's the Japanese equivalent of Mickey Mouse. So you had Tezuka, who was the artist that created this, that was really sort of going back and forth with Disney at the same time. And he had really captured the hearts and minds of people in Japan, but he was really inspired by what Disney was doing. And so the more I started learning about Japanese storytelling, the more I realized it's the future for us here in the West. And if you guys don't know, this is a crazy stat, but one title of Japanese manga outsells the entire Western comic book market. So Iron Man, Spider-Man, Superman, Wonder Woman, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, X-Men, all of them combined are outsold by Demon Slayer. It's crazy. And so I think the Japanese have really nailed something from a storytelling perspective that speaks to people in a far more clear and powerful way, certainly as kids, than we do. So as we try to build out what we're building, and our sweet spot is 11 to 15-year-olds, and the Japanese actually have a name for that, which is shonen, and so we're really modeling our storytelling style off of that, which I just think is more effective. So I wear the jacket to remind me of what we're trying to do. So
That's fascinating. You know, I've been all over Asia, and one of the things that I love about Japan, which I find so different, is the Japanese culture is so much more creative than almost all other, even the United States, where we have a lot of creativity and we are on the cutting edge of culture, so to speak. Why do you think the Japanese, when you go there, they wear orange pants and they're just so mind-blowingly creative? Why is that?
Well, so the interesting thing is that it's a very repressive culture. So when you're there, 98% of the people are dressed exactly the same. They all fit in. Like they're really trying to break that culture because now it's really holding them back. So the thing that made them so effective in the 80s, the hyper efficiency, all the things that they gave us in terms of manufacturing, just absolutely mind-blowing. But the society tamps down real creativity. And so that's why you've had a stagnant culture now for the last, it's like 30 years. So it's really pretty scary from a Japanese perspective. But the reason that we all look at that and go, but there's this startling amount of creativity coming out of Japan, is because the people that come out from under that are able to buck the system, to think differently than their parents, to overcome that massive societal influence in a way I think in the West we don't really understand. It's just so massive there that they shoot out like a cannon. I talk about the inner cities a lot. The inner cities break almost everyone that they touch, but the people that become strong enough to escape it, like they really get escape velocity and they end up doing extraordinary things. And so if you grow up in an area where they're just like conform, and you find it within yourself to break out of that mold, you tend to overshoot the mark. And so you get these extraordinary stories. Like manga, that's one of the things that makes them so great, is the storytelling feels a little unhinged in the best way possible. And so they know their audience. So what do 12-year-old boys like? Let's make that. What do 12-year-old girls like? Let's make that. Let's not judge it. Let's just make it. And then they have a way of really fostering the creative talents of writers for decades plus. And so you'll get one comic that's being worked on by one person for 25 plus years. It's really crazy. So it's a totally different system, but it requires them to really mine talent. And so anyway, no one's going to care about how manga artists come up, but it's actually really pretty fascinating in terms of how they go about finding those next talents. Because it's difficult no matter where you go, but it's doubly difficult in where you have that cultural suppression.
Beautiful. Well, Tom, thank you for being here tonight. We really appreciate it and look forward to your keynote speech.
Got some powerful stuff. Thank you so much again. Thank you.
You ready, brother? I'm ready.
Thank you so much again.
Yeah,
really,
of course.
really
It's
look.
exciting to be here.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right, watch this way.
Thanks for this.